Welcome to Instablogs Global Report. This is Sukhmani with fresh updates and citizen voices from all over the world. Top stories for the day are: increasing number of Sri Lankan students travelling overseas for education. Malawi struggling hard to secure its economic independence. Israel's education system boosting religious studies. An ecosystem of Kenya's Masai Mara National Park threatened by overgrazing and farming. Cycle of closures in Sri Lankan universities and rising unemployment has caused a large number of graduates to travel overseas for study. CJ Vignesh reports from Sri Lanka for Instablogs.
This is Vignesh, citizen journalist reporting from Sri Lanka for Instablogs. The cycle of closures in Sri Lanka universities during the mid and late 90s created a sudden boom of travelling overseas for study. Another thing that followed was a large number of new graduates finding employment elsewhere. The reasons are conflict, lack of opportunity and political instability. On the other, lack of employment opportunities for some specialized fields is further complicating the problem. In addition to this, Sri Lanka is facing extremely high rate of inflation, which is resulting in a high cost of living. While Sri Lanka being a third world country, it could not provide salary scales equal to international rates to those who have paid large amounts of money for their education in other countries. While economy is struggling due to bad policy, but some of the smart minds of the country are moving away. And while it would be a warm and nice feeling to ask them to stay out of patriotism, Sri Lanka government also need to take steps to stem the flux of talent to other countries.
Malawi is struggling hard to secure its economic independence. The legislature has failed to pass bills that would have made Malawi more competitive in terms of international trade. CJ Tandi Soko has more on Malawian economy.
This is Tandi Soko, citizen journalist reporting for Malawi for Instablogs. Despite government's efforts to boost the economic image of the country to global investors, economic freedom in Malawi remains poor. The legislatures have failed miserably to pass economic bills that would have made Malawi more competitive on the international trade arena. Even politicians have delayed the passing of 2008 and 2009 budgets, which has created a climate of uncertainty that's slowing down the donors' inflows. Due to this, overall economic freedom, or rather call it freedom to do business, is ranked poorly. And the worst category for the country is freedom from corruption, which is yet another reason that leads to it to score poorly, irrespective of high fiscal and labor freedom. Malawi's economic problems, high inflation, government subsidies are not widespread, and weak rule of law further jeopardizes the protection of property rights. With all this going on, it remains a difficult struggle for Malawi to secure its economic independence and for Malawians to take hold of their own economic destinies.
Israeli education is boosting religious studies. Thousands of Israeli boys and girls are flocking to the ultra-Orthodox schools to seek religious education. CJ Jesse Edward reports on Israeli shift from secular to religious education.
This is Jesse Edwards, CJ, reporting from Israel. Israel's education is witnessing a change as religious schools get a boost. Students who haven't had a class in math, science, civics, or English, but only on religious studies, believe that this will equip them for any subject they might need to tackle later in life. Cloistered at ultra-Orthodox schools defying the secular teachings that might shake their faith, thousands of Israeli boys and young men study to master the Torah and Talmud. In a defining battle over the Jewish state's identity, the yeshivas are resisting pressure from secular politicians and educators to teach the basic subjects required at all Israeli secondary schools. They don't want to turn into what they see as enlightened people who will integrate into Israeli society because of its many temptations. Secular Israelis see the Haredim as an assault on the rational, while the religious talk of a separation of Jews from Judaism and don't want to contaminate their children. Nevertheless, one thing for sure is the increasing trend of these schools wields disproportionate political clout.
The ecosystem at Kenya's Masai Mara National Park, home to the Masai tribe, is under threat. The park's wildlife is under threat from overgazing, farming and mass tourism. CJ Duncan reports from Kenya for Instablogs.
This is Duncan, citizen journalist from Kenya. Kenya's iconic Masai Mara is a crown jewel of Kenya's tourism industry. It is haven for migrating wild beasts that come rushing from the nearby nations and was recently considered as the world's eighth wonder. But the wildlife haven has seen a sharp reduction in the wild because of overgrazing, farming and mass tourism. Though Masai Mara National Park is a protected area, the ecosystem around it is privately owned. In 2000, the Kenya government moved to subdivide land into small plots for Maasai families. The newly acquired notion of land ownership has led to tension between neighbors encroaching to find pasture for their livestock. They are restricted for grazing in their Shrivel estates. Many Maasai opted for wheat farming or simply sold their plots to developers, and both outcomes contributed to choking the natural habitat of the lions and elephants so prized by the world tourists. The Maasai had to make a choice because the pastoralist lifestyle was no longer sustainable. The wildlife has one of the best exotic products in the world, and it firmly needs commercial and philanthropic model to make the conservancy viable.
If you want your voice to be heard by millions, let Instablogs be your choice. You can contact us at cj@instablogs.com. That's all for today's show. We'll be back with fresh updates and more citizen voices. Till then, it's goodbye from the entire team of Global Report.